Hi, I'm Cindy Batista, foundress of Grace Guest House. You may know that I retired as executive director of Grace 2 years ago. But why? This is my story. This is my story about why I quickly departed the mission that I love so deeply. And it's also my why for inviting you to join my husband and I in supporting Grace in a profoundly meaningful way through the pillars of grace. So my story. In February of 2022, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. I underwent surgery to remove the tumors, and to this day I remain under a doctor's care for close monitoring. However, although the doctor has said this cancer will return, to date, I remain cancer-free with the grace of God. Then, in June 2022, the devastating explosion. My beautiful brother David was traumatically injured, his body severely burned. David was rushed to ECMC and in the burn unit there for 3 months. There were weeks spent on ventilator and times when the doctors told us of infections that he might not survive. I'll never forget sitting in the trauma waiting room with all the other families as we waited for that clock to tick to the top of the hour so we could begin those precious 60 moments sitting at the bedside of our loved ones, stroking their hair, talking, singing, praying, telling stories, all to the hum of the ventilator and what seemed like the constant ringing of alarms. We shared hourly updates as well as food trains and prayers. So many prayers and many miracles too. Then, just 5 weeks after the explosion, our father died while David was still fighting to survive from his injuries. Though relationships had been strained and there was estrangement, with God's grace I forgave my father and became his caretaker during the last months of his life. I was alone with my dad at Mercy Hospital before he slipped from violent agitation into the tender care of Dr. Steinig. Our dad breathed his last breath while I stepped away for an hour. But he was not alone. He was surrounded by my daughter and her husband, as well as my brother Gary and our mom, who rushed from the ECMC waiting room to be there. Amazing grace. A personal cancer journey, a family medical trauma, and the loss of a parent have all created in me a heart that swells even more with love and compassion for the families who find Grace House as the shelter in their storms. They're not as fortunate as I was. My storms were all close to home and to my family and community. Grace's families are all far from home. So Grace House and all the people who work, support, and volunteer there provide that home away from home and the love so desperately needed during those dark, turbulent days. Today, I am re-engaged in Grace's mission, serving again on the board of directors with a renewed sense of urgency. Will you help ensure the families have shelter in the storm by saying yes to the Pillar of Grace? My goal is a big one. It's to raise $40,000 of urgently needed operating support. My husband Robert and I will personally match donations up to $3,000. I encourage you to join me with your donation today. You can give monthly or one time. It's easy. Text *grace or star grace to 44321. Please don't wait. Give today. Together, we provide comfort, compassion, and light to families in their darkest days. Thank you so much.